Hello there and welcome to the latest episode of This is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. As always, I'm joined by my wonderful friend, Mr. Dave the Mark, who joined me for a day out in Southampton yesterday. Dave, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. I'm good. I enjoyed my trip to Southampton yesterday. It was very, very nice to take in a wrestling show from a different vantage point. Haven't been that kind of far away from the action at a RevPro show in a long time, but I quite enjoyed getting to study everything from a slightly different view. Quite enjoyed the fact that I could rock up at 4:15 and the bell was at 4:30, which was lovely. And yeah, I'm ready for J Cup and Revolution Rumble over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be good. We'll call you Hard Cam Dave from now on then. Just standing up there. View from the hard cam down to the ring. Yeah, mate, I was so glad to be back in there yesterday. It's April 19th or 20th. The
13th.
No, when Doncaster.
Oh God, sorry.
Yeah, 19th or 20th. Yeah, 20th. That was it. Yeah, April 20th. Yeah,
which was a week after the last 1865, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, so that Doncaster show was my last RevPro show, my last live wrestling show.
You've gone effectively almost, apart from the Doncaster show, Southampton to Southampton without a show in between.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh god, I've been dying to get to a show. Considering this year, we know that I said I'm not going to be at as many shows, and then I just seemed to buy every show possible.
Did the first 10 in a row, didn't you?
It was something closer because there was the Sheffield and Coventry's in there that I didn't go to, but it was something ridiculous. I think like 8 out of the first 10 or something like that. I went to, yeah, which is like I said before, almost approaching your levels, almost. But yeah, it's this Southampton show. J Cup next week, Rumble week. J Cup and the Rumble, mate. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those. I've not done a RevPro Rumble. I know there's only been 2. And I was going to go last year, but decided against it. But yeah, last year was my first J Cup. This year is my first Revolution Rumble. It's going to be a good time, my friend.
Yeah, exciting. And I imagine quite a bit of what we talk about tonight will lean into the Rumble and the J Cup. And
I reckon so, mate. I reckon so.
What's not announced, what we think's happening.
Yeah, so we were saying just before we came on, didn't we, that this feels like... So this show, it's kind of quite weird in how it's placed in the calendar because you've got a regional show followed by an event, followed by an event. And you'll obviously know this better than I do, but I'm trying to think the last time that happened. And because the only exception that I know of is Summer Sizzler into Anniversary, but that was a very different kind of show, right? That was there was a reason.
We had a show in between, didn't we?
No, that was the week before. I'm pretty sure that was the week before because that was when Southampton was supposed to be, which was supposed to be the go home show.
Then Southampton was pushed back a week, wasn't it?
Southampton was pushed back, yeah.
So we literally had Southampton in between. So Sizzler was the 11th.
Did we? Oh, was it? Oh, my mistake.
Southampton was the 18th, and the anniversary was the 25th.
Oh, yeah, you're right, aren't you?
But even then, mate, I completely agree. Like that's 2 big events really close together. I've never known it to be 2 in a row.
Yeah, but
it kind of gave yesterday a bit of a strange vibe, in the sense that if I went to the show not really knowing that much about RevPro, Francesca did her usual kind of her sales pitch. Mm-hmm. Make sure you get tickets for Stevenage isn't too far away, London's not too far away. So she made it explicitly aware that there's J Cup and there's a Rumble. Mm-hmm. There was a video package for the Rumble. There was a video package for the J Cup. So everyone that's there would definitely know that these 2 events are happening.
Yes,
it very much felt like it was more focused around the Rumble than the J Cup, with Shaw talking about winning the Rumble, going on to challenge the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, everything between TK and Oku. And then you had stuff for the Jacob, because you had Cameron Kai in action, and he was a focal point last week. And you had Ridgeway and Nino Bryan in the main event, and you had Caven as the undisputed British Cruiserweight Champion in the opening match. But there was nothing said to make me go away and think, oh, I must go to that Jacob. I must get tickets for that. Like you said before we came on, maybe a lot of that's coming from what was recorded afterwards with the post-match promos and. I've got to say there, I think I'm going to use the phrase backstage reactions. Yes. I really like that. Then it's not necessarily everybody cutting a promo, is it? It's people reacting to their matches in the traditional sporting promo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
You watch a football match and you know that you're going to hear from both managers and the man of the match and maybe both captains afterwards. And I like these. I'm really into the videos. I look forward to them dropping each week. So maybe we'll get some reveals in there.
Yeah.
And maybe it is simply a case of the metrics show Andy that there isn't a huge crossover between Southampton and Stevenage.
Yeah, maybe.
That when we buy tickets, we enter our addresses and our postcodes. So you must be able to analyse that data. And from when we used to listen to the A Squared podcast, you know that he does, because he talked about using different links for tickets on different Twitter posts, so he could track which posts led to the most ticket sales.
Yeah,
which I think is one, it's really clever, and two, that's not just seeing Twitter lead to ticket sales. That's this post led to this many sales. This post led to this many sales. So that's quite a high level of analytics. So maybe it is just a case that the J-Cup isn't going to get the results, and the Rumble might. Maybe the J-Cup doesn't need the sales as much as the Rumble does. Yeah. And maybe it's just the fact that the Rumble is the focal one for stories coming out of going into the rest of the summer.
Yeah, and it could well be. It could be one of those things. It could be a whole mixture of those things. Like I said, it's just really a really strange time, but looking forward to seeing how it pans out and what happens there. But we're effectively I was going to say three J-Cup entrants, and
we did our predictions last time, didn't we?
Did we?
Oh no, I say that we did on the video that never got to see.
And you know what? I can't even remember who I said for that as well. But
just for context, we did record an episode last week. Sadly, technology failed us, and we didn't get to share it. But we shared who. I remember talking about James Ellis.
Yeah.
At the time, I was thinking Liam Slater might get involved in it, so that we can get Liam versus Cameron Kai as part of the J-Cup. And I also went for. I don't remember who I said last week now. I went Hero.
Yes, that one. Yeah.
Of UK talent and somebody who could come in and bring a bit of something different without having the huge import costs.
Yeah.
Now I'm now convinced Joe Lando's going to be in it. That feels like the him beating Cameron yesterday. Logically, feels like, well, if I've just beaten someone who's in the J-Cup, and I happen to be free next Saturday, is there a space for me as well? I can imagine that will come out of his post-match comments. And then
does that mean then Ethan Allen is also one of the competitors? Or does he, as a champion, just because to be fair, I did post a couple of weeks ago and said I want Ethan Allen in it, and he seemed well up for it. So
I was very happy with those level of talents being involved. That sounded horrible. I don't like that phrasing. But in terms of Ethan Allen and Joe Lando aren't like big international names like Dante Martin and Leo Rush that we got last year. So you don't necessarily get that kind of, wow, I'm getting to see Dante Martin on Saturday. But what you do get is, oh, cool, I'm going to get to see Joe Lando and Ethan Allen building up to their match at the Rumble. I've got this whole storyline with Cameron Kai and Liam Slater going into it. You've got kind of, this could be Nino Bryan's crowning moment. Do you know what I mean? Whereas last year, I really enjoyed the J Cup last year, but it's like, oh, cool, we get to see Barbaro Cavernario. Oh, cool, we get to see Robbie Eagles. But it didn't really feel like it felt like a who's who of cruiserweights.
Yeah.
Which is really cool for a tournament, and that's kind of what the British J Cup built on. But it's quite refreshing and different from my perspective to have more storylines leading to people being involved. I interviewed Cameron Kai yesterday. That's going to come out. Probably would have come out by the time everyone's listening to this. But we had just like a really good chat just about his J Cup last year, his J Cup this year, how Liam Slater getting him into it is like how he feels about that situation, and it's we got to have like a good sort of like 15-minute sit down chat in order to like just basically just talk about the J Cup. I don't think we could have done that last year because it just would have been like, oh, you're in the J Cup, that's wicked. Wouldn't it be great to win the J Cup? Like, and we could talk about the history of the J Cup, but actually this time it's more about how it's kind of the J Cup to J Cup, the year he's had, the journey he's been on, the highs of performing at Doncaster for Global Wars and challenging for the title. Leo Rush putting him over like he did, letting him have the title match before Leo had the title match, all the way to the pretty poor run of form in 2025 so far, like no hiding from it. And then everything with Liam Slater and Leon Slater that's taken place over the last few weeks. So, but for those of us that obviously love RevPro as much as we do, there's loads for us to get excited about with the J Cup.
Yeah, and I think you can still do like of the 3 remaining spots, you can still do maybe 2 RevPro names and an import name, be that someone from Europe or someone from America, Mexico, somewhere like that. You can still do that and achieve that. But I would agree that
we've got Ace Austin and Adam Priest.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited to see those guys. They're big names in independent wrestling.
Of course, and look, and that's it. Is you want the level of the guys who are in the scene competing to be the best guys in the scene, and you also want those guys out of the scene. But I would agree with you because I think last year, even though he was an import, and rightly so to a level, but it felt like Leo was almost the RevPro guy. He wasn't the AW guy, because obviously there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, like Robbie Eagles has wrestled for RevPro a few times. But Leo Rush feels like he is a more integrated part of RevPro because of not just the number of times he's wrestled, but the number of years that's spanned. Barbaro Cavernario obviously has done some bits for Fantastic Mania. He's done a J Cup once before, so it's nice to bring him back. And Dante is kind of like the freshest one in the sense that he's done the least work for RevPro, but it did follow him being at the Copper Box. So it was kind of like for a little period there, Dante did a few shows for RevPro. So, with the Trios Grand Prix, Sheffield show, the Copper Box and the J Cup, he did 5 shows within the space of a couple of months last year. So although it was like still very new having Dante Martin in RevPro, it felt like he was quite kind of part of the locker room for that period. But Leo definitely the most established of them.
I'm interested to see how it rounds out. I do think in some way Liam Slater is there. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure he said he's going to be there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Online promos.
I was thinking Liam Slater versus Cameron Kai, round 1.
I mean, it would be great, right? Literally open the show with it.
And yeah, you could open the show with it. Does Cam win and beat the coach? Does he lose? Like, interesting stories, both out there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the J Cup pans out, and we'll get into a bit more.
The thing I'm most surprised at with the J Cup, though.
What's that?
We don't know what the other matches are going to be.
No, actually, right. So
Evo and Serena Deeb, right?
Yeah,
but
and that's it.
Years, so this is my 4th J Cup I've been to. 2022, they did a big Dan Maloney versus Minoru Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the J Cup, and then they built the card up. 2023, so that's the one Leon Slater won. That's the one where it was they absolutely stacked the second half. So Michael Oku versus Gabe Kidd, Kanji versus Alex Windsor, RKJ versus Luke Jacobs. Last year, we knew we were getting Manders versus Luke Jacobs. That was announced quite early.
Yeah.
And like the card filled up around it. But I don't remember on any of those shows me like thinking I'm going to RevPro next week and I don't know what I'm watching.
Yeah. And look,
I'm quite excited about that because like I bloody go to all the RevPro shows, so it's nice to have a little bit of, you know, something different to be like, ooh, I wonder what it's going to be, because I can't be disappointed, but I wonder how other people feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to know the matches because I like to get excited for what the matches are. Okay, so that is the thing with me. I like to know that, and while I'd be excited if a surprise match of some sort happened on the night, like that would be cool. Like I'm sure I'd enjoy it, and that speaks a lot to the level of talent that RevPro have, that they can do that. And I know I wouldn't be disappointed, but I feel like you said, we've got Deeb and Lizzie. Will we get a world title defense? Probably not, because we know we're getting the British title defense. World title. I blame TK Cooper for calling it the world title in one of his vlogs that he did. But we've got that match is happening at York Hall.
Yep.
Could we have done? I mean, I know you've got a big tag team title match at York Hall, but could we have done another tag match here? Are the J Cup matches going longer?
Storylines that aren't going to be paid off at York Hall.
I was convinced that one of them,
felt Jay Joshua and Zazai was taking place.
Yes,
and
I would agree.
That still is going to be the case, but obviously we know Zazai is injured, so it will just be a case of, is he fit in time for Saturday?
Yeah.
So obviously they can't advertise that match if they know full well there's a chance it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that's going to be a later this week call. Shah and Josh James? Does that storyline get extended here?
That's interesting. So, I was just checking on a date on something. So, in Spain, RCW are promoting that on Friday, Manders versus Azaya in their main event for Gascomania.
Right.
Which would suggest that they are fairly confident that Zazaya...
Do you know how long ago that was first advertised?
26 minutes ago.
Oh, right.
Now, so I saw this a couple of days ago, that this was a thing, and then Pepper's just actually sharing it and doing a bit of a media post for it. So obviously knowing how tight he is in there, I believe he works with the company.
And Andy last week said, didn't he, that like Zazaya's going to be ready sooner rather than later. It's just a case of which week he's going to be ready for.
He said definitely York Hall, maybe Southampton, which would lead. I
really want that because he's announced for the Rumble, isn't he?
Yes, exactly. He is.
The first two names. I really want that Zazaya versus Jay Joshua.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I have talked into existence that I'm convinced is happening. What else is there that's happening right now that we could give the the kind of give the rub of the fact that the Stevenage crowd, it's a bigger show. It could be a quite sizable moment for some of these storylines to be extended or paid off.
The problem is, I think most of the main stories at the moment are either, like you said, that sort of thing where we're unsure of the status. We've got guys who are already booked in matches for the following week, title matches. Yep. So that it doesn't make sense. The only other story that I was kind of thinking, I mean, even then I was just going to say, Kanji, but Kanji is
Kanji and Emerson
already,
Rumble,
Emerson, at the Rumble.
Though interestingly, that's another one where we haven't had a match graphic for that.
No, we haven't.
We haven't had a match graphic for CPF versus Young Guns.
No.
We haven't had a. So it's quite difficult to kind of remember what's happening at the Rumble because. In terms of if you look online, TK Cooper versus Michael Oku and the Rumble. That's it.
Yeah.
But we know from being at shows, hearing stuff being confirmed, listening to commentary, watching all the little YouTube clips, Emerson Jane versus Kanji's happening, Young Guns versus CPF is happening, and Will Caven versus the winner of the J Cup is happening.
Yes.
So even then, I feel like we're going to get another Rumble match as well as what's happening at the J Cup, because that would be there's your undercard effectively, but I can't see TK versus Michael Oku happening before the intermission. I can see it happening directly before the Rumble.
Yeah.
Unless the Rumble is going to take up the entire second half of the show, and they're just going to do 4 beforehand. But that does break the format of the last 2 Rumbles, which were 4 matches, interval, championship match, and Rumble.
Yeah, it feels So, and that's the thing. So, the one match I thought maybe we were going to get, and again, they're playing the story in a different direction. It seems. I thought, were we going to get Josh James versus Shah? That's what I was thinking as well. Like we said,
it feels like Josh James is he has got the money in the bank to have a York Hall match. He's built up that credit, and it felt like he was going to get a York Hall match at Uprising before he got injured. It felt like Shah and Josh was being built up for Uprising.
Yeah.
Because it's this stuff means a lot to people.
I mean,
do you know what I mean? Cameron Clyde's never had a singles match at York Hall, and Josh James has never had a singles match at York Hall. David Francisco hasn't, and these are the guys who are literally at every RevPro show. When I spoke, pulling back the curtain a little bit, I spoke to Cameron last week to arrange Sunday's interview, and we were like, "Yep, we'll do it on Sunday. Do it in Southampton." And I said, "Do you know what you're doing on the show yet?" And he was like, "No, not really." But there was no question as to, are you going to be on the show?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't even like, when I said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I wasn't trying to get a scoop on who he was wrestling. It was more, are you going to be wrestling? Are you just going to be helping run production, doing, just being around? Because Cam's always there, whether he's wrestling or not, unless he's got a booking somewhere else. It's home for him. So for him to be able to get a York Hall match down the line, I'm really hoping he wins the J Cup. And I've changed my tune because I wanted it to be Ridgeway. But I feel like if the route was going to be Leon Cage is going to win it, and we're going to build to Leon Cage versus Ridgeway, which I really liked, if that can't happen, then there's another great story to be had where Cameron turns his form around in the glory of the night. It's almost like your beloved Man United and Spurs and the Europa League. You can have a shit season, but all it takes is a little cup run. Although it hasn't done much good for Ange Postecoglou. But Cameron, he has this J Cup out of a really poor run of form,
Mm-hmm.
And then he finally gets his win over Caven. Something,
Yeah.
you know, the two lads who have been like, you know, part of that heart and soul of RevPro,
Yeah.
getting a York Hall singles match together. Cameron getting the big win. It could be massive for his career. And then, you know, Ridgeway, I'd love it for Ridgeway, but I don't think Ridgeway needs it. Like, in the sense that his stock is already very high. And he's had the global opportunities, and the story of him and Caven doesn't work as well as him as Caven and Kai. But Ridgeway going after Cameron Kai after sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all turns out, right? Because even before Leon Cage get injured, I think you and I had very different views on where we thought this was going anyway, right? But even then, when you look at all of the ways it could, I don't know, like, I'm intrigued, I guess, is where I am. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it comes out of. Maybe we get the match between Josh James and Sharp because Harry's in the J Cup and Josh.
Harry in the J Cup.
Josh attacks him before the match or something.
Harry in the J Cup could be fucking fun.
Harry
with Adam Priest.
Oh, so we're on the same lines because I was just gonna say put him there against Ridgeway. Like we're on the same lines there completely.
Harry versus Ridgeway. Jesus Christ, that could be all sorts of sadism and masochism there.
Josh destroys him beforehand, and Ridgeway just has his way.
But I quite like that, right? Because there's some people could listen to that and be like, "Yeah, but that makes no sense. How can Harry be in the J Cup? He never wins. He's a serial loser." So, yeah, but Liam Slater politic to get Cameron Kai in, so we just need a promo that says "Shot or politic to get Harry in."
Yeah.
You know, Andy's basically made it quite clear that Liam Slater charmed him into putting Cameron Kai in.
Yeah, I mean,
he said, you know, and as if we all know Charles a charming fellow as well. I like that, and I feel like that's something RevPro do really well. I look for the why in everything, and I look for how we can. Okay, so there's two possible outcomes that could happen in this match. What could it lead to if wrestler A wins? What could it lead to if wrestler B wins? And I've always got something. Do you know what I mean? It's not like when you watch a match. We talked about it. I watched Money in the Bank on Sunday before I came down to Southampton, and one of the matches was quite impromptu because it came from the Worlds Collide event with AAA earlier in the day, and it was Octagon Junior challenging for the Intercontinental Championship against Dominic Mysterio. There is no way WWE is booking Octagon Junior to beat Dominic Mysterio in that match. Like, it's just, there is zero jeopardy.
Yeah.
There's no storyline, rhyme, or reason for it. There's nothing interesting that comes from Octagon Junior winning. You can tell by the way Worlds Collide was presented, in the way that clearly not only were they not expecting the WWE fans to have a clue who the AAA wrestlers were. I'm not entirely sure how much Corey Graves knew who any of the AAA wrestlers were. So what did I do when Octagon Junior versus Dominic Mysterio was on? Went and had a shower and made a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
If there's no jeopardy, if there's no interest, it's just...
And that's it, right?
It's not enough for me to just watch two good wrestlers have a wrestling match. But that never seems to happen in RevPro. And I'm a mark. I love it.
Yeah.
But that's why I love it, because I'm always watching it and I'm thinking, interesting. If we start with the Cameron Kai versus Joe Lando match from Southampton.
Yeah, so this was one of the matches that I, like you said, coming into this, I was sitting there with the lads going, neither guy can afford to lose this. And one of the things that I like about wrestling, and look, I'll be honest, there's two ways you can look at it, right? And we had one earlier this year, was neither team can afford to lose this, right? Both teams had to win. Young Guns versus Jay Joshua and Colin Mills, right? And that was the epitome of, and for me, it currently is the match of the year still, I think. But it's the epitome of, there's so much momentum for both these teams. Neither of them can afford to lose. Coming into this one, I had the opposite effect of that. Like, I've critiqued the CPF Young Gun storyline quite a lot. I know that I'm aware of that. And I kind of felt you can't have Joe Lando lose here, right? He has to win. But then the story that they're trying to tell with Cam, and then what they did last week with Cam, I was like, you can't have him lose either.
Him up last week, right?
It was like
they made everybody believe again in Cameron
like,
when Cam was, I'd say Cam was pretty cold.
Yeah, he was. Week. Yeah, absolutely, he was. Yeah,
and they've heated him all up, only for him to lose again.
Yeah, and that was why I was like, okay. So if you asked me at the beginning of the show last week, Cameron was never going to win the J Cup. If you asked me at the end of the show, Cam could win this. If you ask me now, I think Cam has a good showing, but does he win? No, I don't think he does. So it was an interesting one.
Before last week, does Cam win? Not a chance. Last week, does Cam win? Yeah, I think he does. This week, does Cam win? I'm even more convinced he does.
Okay.
And it's. I like the fact that neither of them could afford to lose, but I see storylines for both of them had they lost. Yes. So Lando loses, and it just reinforces the idea that CPF are better as a unit than they are individually.
Mm-hmm.
And the Trio's Grand Prix victory hid from everybody the fact that CPF don't have a good RevPro record. And at some point, we can go down the lines of this kind of crisis of confidence with CPF. Or you can simply go down the fact that this is the trio to be, because they are the epitome of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
And we see that by Danny Black losing, Joe Lando losing, Maverick Mayhew losing, but CPF winning.
Yeah.
On the other side, Cameron Kai has just been heated up, so he needs a big win to make everybody actually believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then they subvert that by having him lose. And so it just reinforces everything Leon Slater said last week. Mm-hmm. And it makes him needing Liam Slater even more clear to us and to Cam. So when Liam does take Cam under his wing, everyone can understand why he did it.
Yeah.
And then we forget Leighton Buzzard's going to come back from Japan, right? And Leighton Buzzard's going to be back involved with RevPro. And whilst he was away, his mate found a new mentor. So we then have like this immediate thing for Leighton when he comes in. So from a match where neither can afford to lose, to being able to think of two storylines which involve both losing, it for me that's the joy of it, because it's like, cool, which way are we going?
And look, like I said, while I have been critical, the thing that I'd be most critical about is if you like job someone. I hate using that term, but like literally that is when someone does it. Like they literally job them out, so they lose, and there is no follow up. That's not what's happening here. So like that is a very specific term for a very specific way of booking. The losses are there, but like you said, there is a story to come from it. So I'm fine. Yeah. Like we've spoken ad nauseum about you have to find your adversity, right? And as long as they don't kind of circle it around it too much and get on with it, it could be really good. But also, just wanted to say about, I don't know how it looked to you, but did you see the really gnarly post bump that Joe Lando took?
Oh God, yeah.
Cam through. I don't know how well it came across, but from where we were sat, he just went off.
And it really looked like there was a slip that led to it happening. So
I think there was, yeah.
That wasn't intentional.
No, it definitely
and
wasn't.
And then afterwards, I was standing with our mate Spike, friend of the channel, and I just kind of laughed, because I just said to him, I was like, I love how well they can work us, because I genuinely have no idea if that was a beautifully timed slip to create that moment, or if it was genuine or not.
So the only
those
way.
two lads and Andy Calder know the answer to that, right?
Well, at least to a degree, I was really worried after that, and what I very briefly, and like this is really watching and studying people. When it happened, obviously Oscar went out, checked, made sure it was alright, came back in, and very, very like you could see Cam kind of go like give him like a little bit of a wink, went like very slightest movement, and you could just see Oscar like really whisper, "Give him a minute." And then you saw Cam standing there, and I was like, okay, it's fine. Like I can stop as that, and that's only because of where I'm sat, looking right at the guys. But like you said, otherwise you are very much like, what is going on here? Like, is this real? Is this not? Much like last week in London when they did the cow on the rope spot as well. Like there was a lot of that. Fun match, really fun match. These guys got great chemistry.
Really enjoyed, I think that's only my second Joe Lando singles match ever. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very good. Second longest match of the night as well. Did not feel that.
I honestly, I don't have a clue how long any of the matches were.
Most of the matches
felt too long.
The only
None
one
of them felt too short.
No,
I feel like the quality on, although. So I'm writing I started the 10 takeaways before we came on air, and I'll post them later tonight. And literally my one sentence summary that I put at the top of it is solid, if not spectacular show, but with lots to keep me intrigued. Was the gist of it. Hopefully I'll point it a little bit more delicately and interestingly than that. But I felt like the quality of the matches was really consistent, and the performances were really solid. Like just the standard of RevPro these days. No one ever has a stinker. No one ever comes in and you're like, don't really fancy seeing that fella again. Like it's just like Joe Lando versus Cameron Wyatt, and you're watching it, and it's so fluid without feeling cooperative, and it's just, and it's not the main event, it's not the heavily featured match, it's just a match within.
I get you, mate. Yeah,
it's not got tons of story going into it. It's just, but like just the standard of RevPro these days, I'm just so impressed by it.
Yeah, we talked about it last year when we very first started the pod, right? One of the things that we spent, and would you believe, in 2 weeks' time, we hit the year, or it's 3 weeks' time, we hit a year doing this, a year from the first video. But one of the things that we talked about a lot was like leveling up, right? Leveling up, and RevPro has leveled up in so many ways. And I'm just gonna pat ourselves on the back here. A lot of things we were saying, a lot of things that are being done now as well, which goes to show that. And look, I say that in a half jokey way, as if we're but a lot of people out there were saying similar things, and it shows that they're taking the feedback on board. And as RevPro is scaling up, they're scaling up in a lot of ways. But yeah, I'm going to subvert the way,
because we know from having chats with people at shows that some of our most frequent listeners to our podcast are people within RevPro, which is very nice.
It is very lovely. But
one of my favorite things will always be, I don't think we've ever said this on there, but was when Jay Joshua said to me in Sheffield that him and Mills were going to have new music at the 229, and that they were going to do exactly what we said that they should do on this podcast, because he'd listened and he'd heard us say it.
Yeah, and look,
and that's where the ding, diddly diddly ding, say less, Mills came in, and it's just, and maybe they were always going to do that. Maybe that was always on the cards, but he was literally just like, yeah, I heard what you guys said in the podcast about it. I thought it was a great idea. Let's do it.
Look, I'm 100% taking credit for Caven, True, and Lacey. Right, if you like it,
exactly.
I'm taking credit.
True and Lacey, boom, there they are. I love it. Maybe it's just because great minds think alike, but it's lovely, and it's just it's one of the highlights of my week, mate. Genuinely, every Monday I come home from work, I have a shower, I make myself a coffee, and I think, oh, well, me and George can talk about tonight.
To think that we were originally pitching this as doing this monthly. Fucking hell.
Can you imagine?
Could you imagine the lengths of these podcasts?
Yeah. Pro, there have been 4 shows, including the British J Cup and Revolution Rumble. Where should we begin?
Why is this podcast 7 hours long? Right, just to subvert the way we do things a little bit, Dave, I'm going to ask you now what your overall rating for the show is going to be, because there's a theme that we're discussing here a lot that I want to see where you come in on your overall show rating.
Yeah, solid, not spectacular, 6 out of 10.
Interesting. Mine was a 7 out of 10, but for the same reasons. Solid, not spectacular, but like we've said, consistent. The whole way through, consistent.
And also, like, this is a show which couldn't feature Leon Cage, who's been heavily featured, and clearly would have featured him. A show that couldn't feature Zazaya, who's been heavily featured and would have done. Mm-hmm. Ricky Knight Jr. was absent. Young Guns were absent. Like, there's a reason why some of the matches were announced quite late on in the week. And that's always a sign that they're struggling to get the card that they wanted together because of, this is a sport, people get hurt. So I feel like if this was next week, we were talking about the J Cup, and I say the J Cup 6 out of 10, I'll be really disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
If after the Rumble, I say the Rumble was 6 out of 10, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah.
But I wasn't disappointed in the slightest yesterday. And my 5.5 hour round trip to Southampton was well worth it because I had a really enjoyable time at the wrestling.
Yeah, good.
RevPro 6 is we're rating on curve. That is not the same 6 that would be given to other companies because most other companies on their best day can't put together what RevPro put together yesterday.
This RevPro 6 is a RevPro 7, 8, just 2.5, 3 years ago as well for a regional.
Oh yeah, right. For sure.
And that shows, doesn't it? Look, Dave, there's a couple of matches that I think we can do really light touch on because we've discussed one match. We're 45 minutes in. We're talking about our 7-hour long pods, right? Caven versus Xander Bryant, I thought was a fun match. It really got across Caven's ruthlessness. He didn't have to cheat. It was just a really good match that made him look like a nasty bastard, but also made him look credible in the sense of we've seen him a few times cheating to win or having to employ tactics. Here he didn't have to do that. He got the job done. I liked it.
Mate, I literally have nothing to add to the Caven side of it because you've hit the nail on the head there with it was ruthless. He didn't need to cheat to win this match. There was no need for True and Lacey. And it was a reminder that Will Caven, when his head is in the game and he doesn't feel like he needs to cheat to win, doesn't need to cheat to win because he can be a killer. The only thing I'd add in is the fact that I thought Xander looked really, really like he looked like he fitted.
He did.
He looked like he belonged in RevPro with the likes of CPF and Will Caven and Cameron Kai, and then obviously your Michael Oakley's and your Chris Ridgeways and people like that. And for such a young guy in what I'm seeing as his first singles match in RevPro, because last week was obviously him working with his brothers. They're so comfortable with one another.
You don't really count it. Yeah.
This was an excellent kind of debut, if you like.
Yeah, it was. I'm taking it as a debut singles because, like you said, last week's wasn't even a singles. It was a triple threat. And I know that they work singly, but like you said, poor Leland, though. Both his brothers wrestling. He just has to watch from the merch tables, but his time will come.
His day will come. He's still suffering from the ankle from last week, right?
Well, I don't know because I didn't get to see the match, and like, I haven't even had time to go back and watch it yet. And look, the other match I thought fairly light touch, Mills versus Danny Black.
I agree.
this was kind of we talk about like tropes and cliches and how I don't like it, and maybe with how CPF have been booked, I was kind of like, I said this last time in Southampton. Could you have done one of CPF beat Ethan, one lose to Luke, right? And they've kind of done that here, and it just made sense. You've got one of the lads showing that he can win. You've got one who comes in with a loss. Losing to someone like Mills is just, it's no kind of like,
yeah, there's you don't lose anything.
No honour losing. There's no, not at all. You gain from being in there, but again, looking ruthless.
That
feel
finish,
yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Like we know, like, so Mills is incredibly athletic and really flexible for a big guy. So he often does that kind of Zack Sabre Jr. lean, like I'm sure a lot of people do it, but the lean back with the head on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
But doing that whilst holding an ankle lock just looked killer.
Yeah.
But that's the finish from now on, surely.
He just looks so good every time he's in there. So good. And there was people saying yesterday, he's got to be the guy that wins the Revolution Rumble. Like, and the fact that people say that's the match, and it's just like there's so many different matches that people are out there saying at the minute.
And that's happened every time they've done a Revolution Rumble at your call. Because one of my favourite things about the Rumble is asking everybody who you think's going to win it, and where you're sitting on the day. So you hear maybe 20, 30 people tell you who they think are going to win. No one ever agrees. There's normally half a dozen names, and they're viable. So I'm excited for that. I thought this match, of all the matches on the card, was the most random. In the okay, Danny Black versus Conor Mills. That feels a bit out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it a bit of okay? Let's fill an extra space on the card. This will do. I don't think so. I don't think Andy books like that. Even when even when there is injuries to work around. So I was thinking, does Danny Black get an upset win over Mills, and then he enters the J Cup as well? Obviously, that's not happened. Now it's made me think, are CPF going to beat the Young Guns?
I think they are.
I wasn't expecting beforehand. I was very, if we're doing predictions for the Rumble, my safest bet is I think Young Guns are going to beat CPF. But if CPF were to beat Young Guns, Mills can immediately step up and be like, well, you're a champion, and I literally pinned you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So me and Jay, we're after you two. And I suppose actually, even if Young Guns win, Mills can come out and say, well, I beat your last challenger, so I'm your next challenger.
Yeah.
Bring on the rematch. So it it does work. It does work when you think that the challenger to the undisputed British Tag Team Champions is having to face the former champions before the big match with the champions.
Yeah. Actually,
the Young Guns had a week off and CPF had to work.
Yeah.
Before going into a proper war.
It made sense, actually. Yeah, because to me, this
all makes sense.
This did feel like this was the one that felt the most random in the sense of, is this a case of we needed to bring someone in? We know what a madman Mills is when it comes to racking up shows on a show day. The lad seems to be everywhere all at once. And then it's, well, how do you do this match? And like you said, ideally, if you're having Danny Black wrestle, you want him to win. But this makes sense for him to take the loss. We had Mills and Jay Joshua last week staking the claim again for the titles, which I thought was quite exciting. Because I thought the route we might end up going, because the key thing here as well is that match did not utilize the trophies, right? So
no.
That match was a challenge from Young Guns. So they still have their trophies to cash in. So part of me also thought, well, is Mills and Joshua going to get added to that? Like, because that's, and then they obviously did the attack, but I don't think that is the way they're going. I think it is just going to be straight on CPF versus Young Guns, because you just don't have the time now to add that match or add that into the card as well. So, but I've throughout the booking, I've had CPF down to win the titles. But only because of the booking being so. Like, I don't feel that you could have
growing up as WWE fans, right? If Young Guns keep losing in the build up, they're going to win the titles, right?
Yeah, and CPF have been on the losing end a lot, and coming out of this, do I think they come out of it any stronger? No, I don't. I don't think they come out of it any stronger in defeat.
Do you want CPF to win?
Honestly, no. No, I don't. Because look, they're talented lads, but I've got other teams that suit my style of what I enjoy more, right? And I don't feel like I've been built enough to care about them as much as a tag team either. Like, and that's just a me thing. Like, Mills and Joshua, Young Guns, that real hard hitting style. Do I think in the moment there they can get me on side? I do. And I think that is the beauty of CPF is live they are so good at capturing you.
The Coventry shows, I think, really epitomise that. They really can capture a crowd.
Yeah.
I'd love CPF to win. Genuinely, I would. But not next Sunday. Like, I don't feel like I've even got any of the juice out of my Young Guns fruit yet.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just starting.
I love that this is your metaphor you're going with, the juice out of my fruit.
I love the metaphor. It's one of my favourite metaphors. How much juice can you get out of fruit? I just feel like Young Guns they can do so much more with it. There's so many other tag teams I'd like to see Young Guns against. And I don't want these like, I like variety in how long a title reign lasts. Caven has held that cruiserweight title for a good period of time now, and it feels like he's settled the ship there.
Yeah.
The tag titles for me haven't felt like I haven't felt the connection to the tag titles. Probably going all the way back to I'm struggling here. So, who did Sunshine Machine lose them to in 2022? Greedy Souls. And then Greedy Souls carried them until Subculture. And it feels like the Subculture Grizzled Young Vets thing, I think because of the fact that obviously Mandrew's got the injury, that was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
It meant that we had to slow down the frequency of the tag champions being on the scene. Then the Vets got the titles, and then they
won defense,
weren't around for whatever reason for a period. And then you have the brilliant story with Sunshine Machine. But then the Mills and Jay Joshua title reign feels like it ended before I'd really got everything I wanted out of it.
You know, it's funny. It's funny that you say that, right? Just looking at it, because I've just pulled up the Wikipedia entry. They are both. So the reign of Mills and Joshua, 85 days, is exactly what Young Guns are on now. 85 days, really? The titles.
And for me, I just feel like they both needed to be double that.
I would agree, but you know what, right? And here's the thing. I don't necessarily mind them being shorter reigns if it feels like we're getting something out of them, right? If they feel impactful. Because we've had this in companies that we watch, whether it's New Japan, whether it's AEW, WWE. We've had guys that get belted up and then just do nothing with it. Like, I believe that Kenny Omega is like a couple of months now since his last international title defense. And go, why are these guys holding titles then? So, Young Guns and Joshua Mills feel like they're packed a lot in with these reigns. I'm with you. I don't want them. I wouldn't mind CPF winning them at some point down the line, but right now feels very rushed.
Neither team had many defenses, right?
I don't think so. No, let me just go to Cage Match and actually have a look a bit more.
If you look at the history of the Undisputed British Tag Team Championships, most teams only successfully defended a couple of times before losing the belts.
Yeah.
Going back all the way, like going all 12 years, 13 years back now. So yeah, we will see. I certainly won't be upset if CPF win. I will just kind of think, what if? I wonder what would have been had Young Guns carried them longer.
Yeah.
I'm also, I must say, I am not against yo-yoing championships between people.
Yeah, exactly. I was just to say something like that if it makes sense and isn't done
as long as
as
it doesn't end up
crutch and a gimmick.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, so the New Day are 25 million time tag team champions because they just bounce between them and the Usos.
And could you do that between Mills and Joshua and Young Guns? Like,
maybe
because they both feel like on that level, don't they? Like, you look back in the day
where end up having like a best of 3 or a best of 5 series, but just with the titles moving between them. And it would add something different to the lineage. I always used to hate it when I looked at things like the lineage of the NXT Championship, and you literally just see one reign.
It's your turn, yeah.
One reign, and then who had it twice? Was it Finn Balor had it twice, or
I think he did. Twice? I'm sure Joe had it twice. Yeah.
But it was generally you won the title, you lost the title, you moved on. Yeah. That's generally the NXT model, wasn't it? And even with AEW, so AEW's existed for 6 years. There's never been for a long time there wasn't a 2-time champion other than Moxley. So they've never gone back to Hangman, they've never gone back to Kenny, they've never gone back to Jericho. And obviously maybe that's going to change with Hangman now.
Yeah.
But
still, yeah.
I just like anything that subverts the tropes and the predictability. I like anything that's I'm not swerve for the swerve sake, but just anything where it's like unpredictable. But we will see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. For sure. Speaking of interesting and what things are building up to, Josh James versus Harry Milligan, I thought was a great use of time.
How long was it?
It was 5 minutes and 42 seconds.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it felt longer, but not in a bad way. It felt like in a making. Look, maybe it's because you had all the Shah stuff, and that felt like part of the match. But it felt this was definitely a making the most of your minutes. I thought both lads looked really, really good.
Did you like Josh's new music?
I was just gonna say I loved his music.
I liked his new music as well. It had a real kind of it's slow paced and it just had like a bit of aura to it, and I liked that. And it also had some melody in it as well, so it's kind of like it works for a baby face and a heel.
Back in the days,
but it's not like generic kind of rock music. It's got a bit of character to it, and I feel like Josh is ready now. Like he's ready to level up. He's been leveling up for a long time, but now the whole presentation of him matches it.
It does. Back in the day with NXT Black and Gold, you would have someone debut and they'll go, oh, they've got the music that also has lyrics with it, right? And it felt like you said aura. It didn't just feel like a stock tune that gets assigned to someone. And this felt here like this was done, like you said, aura is the perfect way to describe it. It was done intentionally to lift him up, right? To set the scene before you. And obviously that's what music is there for, but really feels like to set the scene before he comes out and give him that gravitas. I really
liked. Sorry, mate. I really liked Charles saying, "You mean nothing to me."
Yeah. I enjoy
it for Harry.
I really want to see Josh delve into something a bit more dastardly. right? And I don't mean that it doesn't have to be comic book villain. I just want to see him get even more aggressive and do something. Because at the minute,
I really enjoy a few Josh James squash matches.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
You know
Make him.
What a good opportunity to book a couple of talents we've not seen in RevPro before. You know, guys who are a little bit lower down in the brick rest pecking order. Give them a look. I mean, Oku literally debuted for RevPro in a squash match with Great O'Connor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he did enough in a squash match to impress. So it's a great opportunity for people. But it would make Josh look like a bit of a killer.
I'm going to put my hot take out there. Josh James gets the most eliminations in the Revolution Rumble.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
That's my hot take for the match.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, I really like the whole segment.
I haven't really started to think too much about the Rumble match.
I haven't, aside from that.
In RevPro at the moment.
Yeah, that's the only thing that maybe like the timing all felt fortuitous, and it wasn't until someone said to me yesterday, they were like, I was saying about how the switch up from Josh felt really quick, and we were both commented on that last week actually, and someone said, but maybe it was just because the plans they already had in place for this year's Rumble had to align with Josh being like that. And I was like, that's a good point. That could be what it is, and that's why it's felt quick.
You know my favourite detail about this whole segment?
What's that?
So last week in the 229, Josh did 3 big splashes off the top rope.
Mm-hmm.
Every splash, he got up on the top rope, kind of took that like half a second to kind of compose himself, and then delivered the splash.
Yeah.
And as I was watching it, as a newfound WWE fan, each time I watched it, I was sitting there thinking, please do a Bronson Reed tsunami. And he did it to Shah this week. And the difference between a top rope splash and tsunami is so subtle, but it's so impressive. Bronson Reed stays with 1 foot on the top rope and 1 foot on the second rope.
Yeah.
Until he jumps off. Because it's almost like he is so big, the top rope can't hold him. And then instead of this elegant splash, you get this kind of launching pad dive. It looks much more.
It looks cool. Yeah.
And it looks deadly. And that splash that Josh did on Shah this week, 10 times the visual impact of the 3 that he did last week.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that was a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And that Josh thought he'd taken inspiration from Bronson Reed. Because I feel like it takes quite a humble move, which works for a big guy. Because anytime a big guy does a move like that, you don't
pay attention.
It just makes sense. But it takes what is effectively a humble move and makes it a killer finishing.
Yeah, it really does. I really enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where this goes. I thought when Shah was chatting that I just thought he was going to change his mind, like the way Josh went after Harry. I thought he was going to change his mind and be like, right, match Jacob, or even your call. I find it more interesting actually that they're not doing that. Like the Rumble is when they're going to meet next. We'll see what comes off the back of it there.
And I'm just a massive fan of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So just, we can do fun stuff with Harry, Shah, and Josh before we have this payoff.
Yeah, they're definitely edging us with this one.
Yes, they are.
So, that's the Dave the Mark effect rubbing off on me.
Mate, I have to put little things into my writing just to pop myself.
Yeah. So
every so often I'll sneak a little Radiohead lyric or a Nick Cave lyric in there just to see if anybody picks up on it.
Yeah, I can't say I've picked up on that. Can't say I've even picked up on it once, mate. I can definitely catch some of your less subtle stuff that you put into your writing, but some of the lyrics, no. Obviously, I'm not highbrow enough. Anita Vaughan versus Sapphire Reed. I thought
really
this was it was really, really good. Want to see more of these two wrestle.
So much more hard hitting than a typical Sapphire Reed and Anita Vaughan match, right?
Yeah, it was.
Obviously, they're very comfortable with each other. Meant that they've gotten in that bit firmer, like we talked about last week, Cameron and Leon.
Yeah,
and it just really enjoyable.
You can bat your friends.
Sapphire said at the end,
Remind me
when they went for the handshake, and the crowd on your side chanted hyperactive.
I was probably too busy policing them at that bit. Me and Wayne were sitting there going, hyperactive doesn't exist.
She said something along the lines of, not here, never in RevPro. But to Anita. Not to the crowd, but to Anita.
Interesting.
Really interesting.
I heard her say something.
Definitely making hyperactive canon.
Yeah, I thought she said, but then I couldn't quite hear herself. I thought she said, "Not ever," but like you said, you're probably more attuned to what she said than I was. So
there was definitely a never in RevPro or never here. It was one of those two. But I really liked it. It was the match I was most excited for on the card prior to the show because I was so interested to see where they went with it.
Yeah.
And now I'm interested to see how Lizzie reacts to it.
Yeah. It's also one of those ones, right? I don't. This might come across as slightly patronising, and I don't mean it to. But I was watching that match. I was like, do you know what? Right, there'll be a group of wrestling fans that go in there, and obviously women on the card, right? And they'll go, like, their experience of women's wrestling isn't like massively experienced. For some, it might be very delayed from the last time they watched in the early 2000s or whatnot. But this was a great advertisement as well for what women's wrestling can be, right? Like you said, such hard hitting match there as well. Like, it was great. And I was thinking along the lines you were of, like, they know each other so well that they've just got in on each other. I loved it. It was
the quality of the wrestling, the breaking stereotypes of what women's wrestling needs to be, in the sense that it used to be about athleticism and flexibility as opposed to just being
being a piss out of each other. Yeah.
And then you've got the storyline, so there's no tokenism. This is an integral part of a RevPro storyline. Like, it was everything that's great about like British and Irish wrestling at the moment.
Yeah, and you know what I love as well, right? Anita Vaughan. She's one of those people that when you see her outside the venue, right? She's tall, but she's not the tallest woman in the world, right? But she feels 10 feet tall when she's out there because she carries. I said this about Lizzie. They carry themselves with such presence that you think they are like really, really tall people, and they're not. Like, Lizzie's shorter than me.
I always, whenever I see Safire outside the ring, there's an element of being surprised at how like small she is.
Yeah,
because so much of her physical her physical presentation comes also from the fact that she has this enormous personality and character when she's in the ring.
Yeah,
and it just adds that extra, takes her from being whatever she is.
Yeah,
like, I don't know, 5'2", something like that, to being 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah, exactly. Such a good match. Right, leads on to the two tag team matches.
Should we talk about the less important one first?
Yes.
One with TK Cooper and Michael Oakley.
Oh, don't you stop! You are pandering too much to David Francisco, Mr. Mark.
Mate, are you telling me that the Sons of Southampton was not the highlight of your night?
I am telling you that I was sitting there cheering for Kieran Lacey and Mark True.
Oh, you miserable bastard!
I, as I said when confronted by Mr. David Francisco, both prior to on Instagram, I was accosted by David Francisco just leaving a comment on a friend's post, and he saw it, didn't he? And he was like, "Why?" And then I said the same thing to him each time. I just don't trust in you yet, David. You're gonna need to show me over a period of time. I'm not so easily fooled. And
it's funny, mate, because
yeah.
I loved everything about the match, and we'll get into it in the presentation. But there's a moment at the end when Francisco was standing directly behind JJ. And even though I don't think it makes any sense to where this is going, and why would having what benefit to Francisco is there of turning on JJ, like at any point, let alone this point, this tag team can go places. They can get him RevPro gold, but just because he was standing behind him, and I'm still learning to trust Mr. Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a moment where I thought, "Fuck, he's gonna nail JJ from behind it," but no, he didn't. I thought that the match was really, really good.
Yeah, same.
I really enjoyed the Jeopardy because I wasn't convinced that Francisco and JJ were going to win, because True and Lacey will do anything to win a match. So I thought there's loads of ways that True and Lacey can cheat them out of a win, give Francisco even more things to be upset about, deny the Southampton pop, but which would actually probably give them an even bigger reaction because the heat that True and Lacey would get, and potentially give Francisco a reason to go and nag JJ into another match. But no, JJ and Francisco won. I loved the way they worked together as a team. It just all looked so natural and organic. It was almost cinematic.
Yeah.
And I love the little things like they hugged, and then JJ had that moment of being like catching himself to be sort of, because he's just oh, maybe that's a bit.
Should have done that. Yeah.
Calm down, Francisco. Even like tonight, I saw on Twitter that Francisco and Joe Lando were bouncing back and forth to each other because Francisco wants a title shot already.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, you know what? So what I loved about this was there was actual layers to it, right? And it was a match that was comedy, but it wasn't comedy. It was a match that
it was my style of comedy. It was my level of comedy.
It was the right level of comedy. David came out and he didn't change up anything about himself, right? He was himself the entire match, right? So you look at his introductions, the way he just kept piling more and more, and even did the real undisputed British heavyweight champion, right? So really heelish there, right? Massively heelish. When JJ was ready to be tagged in a couple of times, he said, "No, JJ, you rest. So he's being condescending and patronising to JJ Gale, right?
And JJ's not a stupid, a traditional stupid baby face.
Exactly, and JJ Gale has look. Let's just say one man has been contender more recently than the other. Okay, so that's the power dynamic at play there as well. Is okay. Throughout the match, there was not any of the traditional cheating to win or anything like that, but they had this Francisco-ness to it that showed you there could be a level here for distrust to come in, like question motives, like you said, the hug at the end. I thought it was really, really well done. I love the double team move that they used as well. Like, it just seemed to be like everything was flowing for them. I think down the line, and I was thinking this, I was like, could they put the belts on CPF to move them on to JJ and Francisco in Southampton?
Well, the last list that I did was predicting who I thought the next 10 champions would be in RevPro. So it's chronological.
Okay.
So it starts with who I thought was going to win the J Cup first, and then the Rumble. So I said in the preamble at the start, I'm going to take these big competitions as being a championship effectively as well. So it goes from J Cup winner to Rumble winner to the next, and who I see winning each belt, where and when. So in there, there's a couple of cruiserweight title changes, a couple of women's title changes, and one heavyweight title change. And the one that I had was Young Guns keeping the belts all the way until Uprising, by which point Francisco and JJ would be the next champions. And that was before we had the Sons of Southampton announced as it was before the 229.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at the potential tag teams and I thought, if not CPF, then who? You know, it doesn't feel like there's anyone at the moment in the tag side of things.
There's no team in waiting
for that responsibility.
Agreed.
But JJ and Francisco absolutely ready for their first RevPro titles. Does anybody, like, and I genuinely mean this, has anybody had a better last 12 months than David Francisco in Revolution Pro Wrestling?
Yeah.
From where they were 12 months ago to where they are now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, the only people for me that feel like, I mean, it's been people that have debuted. That's it, really.
Yeah, like literally, you'd be talking about like Zazaya because obscurity to being who he is now.
Yeah, I was thinking
in terms of like people that were already established in the company and had a role to the role they have now. I just don't see anybody that's taken as big a step forward as David Francisco, and all of it has just been through tremendous graft.
Yeah, it's
been a joy to watch, genuinely a joy to watch.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Do I? And this is where my thought process was going. Do I see them beating Young Guns? That's where I'm not sure I do, which is why I thought if they had like a transitional.
So one of my favourite rivalries in RevPro is JJ Gow and Luke Jacobs.
Yeah.
I really, really like that rivalry. I love the dynamic. I love the fact that Luke Jacobs just cannot stand JJ Gow. Just thinks he's like a pretender.
Yeah.
But he's trying to be levels above what he actually is in Luke Jacobs' eyes. And it's the win-loss record between them is not flattering to JJ in the slightest.
No, it's not.
So I really like that. I love the fact that Francisco already has a pinfall victory over Luke Jacobs. So this is just what RevPro do, right? Either I know completely the storyline they're doing and all the little things they're going to lean on for it, and I can see into the future, or they just put all these little moments between wrestlers. They just have them peppered throughout. So at any moment, Andy Corden can decide we're going to go in this direction, and I've already laid some breadcrumbs here because I've been sprinkling them off in all sorts of directions. Yeah. Such a good booker, like so underrated.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I've always thought that myself. So underrated. I'm just.
Sorry. Are you ready to jump to the main event?
No, you go for it, my friend.
Were you surprised that there was no post-match promo from TK or Oku?
So, we worked ourselves into a shoot, right? So I'm going to talk about this, right? So after the Mercedes Moné appearance in Vienna, and then there was people who I kind of know and respect who probably wouldn't be talking about this sort of thing if they didn't have some sort of could happen about it. I even saw as much Corey Brennan at Fightful had mentioned it, like that he was going to look into it. And I did say to him, I was like, please don't say anything if you know, because I want the excitement on the day either way, like, because it was just a bit of fun to have. Did I go in there thinking she was going to appear? No. Like, I've set that expectation.
Can you imagine the 1865, which only has one entrance, where there is a little group of Southampton's finest little merchants appearing outside the venue at midday? Can you imagine if Mercedes Moné's first experience of a regional RevPro show was getting to meet Tom and Chris and Hayden and Aaron and the lads that get there 4 hours before the show so they can put the worlds to right in the just about to like, welcome to Southampton. Here are our absolutely like avid die-hard little group of fans who are here 4 hours early. Not because they thought you were coming, just because that's what they do every month.
That's what they do.
No
did
surprise
you...
whatsoever for the big Mercedes Monet moment, because these boys are pretty much camped here overnight. So
just
because that's what they do.
Did you see what she did out in Vienna?
Oh, so she won another championship, right?
But did you see how it all came about?
See the
so, and this is the only reason, because I said straight away there is absolutely no chance this could ever happen, until she, in Vienna, a car just pulled up. So it was a big, almost circus tent, I think they were wrestling in. Car just pulled up and she got out and walked in. So it wasn't announced for it, just turned up, walked in. So that is the only reason I felt could work.
Because I never thought it was going to happen, but just to lean into other reasons why people might have thought she did. Do you know what she did after she won that championship?
What's that?
She made a little reel, or her social media team, I don't know, made a little reel of her holding all 5 of her belts.
Yeah.
Which she invited RevPro to collaborate on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
On the Saturday night. So suddenly, on Saturday night, RevPro's top, Mercedes Monet is the top post on RevPro's Instagram channel once again, holding up her belts with the RevPro belt very clearly there.
Yeah, okay.
And obviously, just she probably collaborated with all 5 companies that she's holding.
But it's
4 companies that she's holding championships for. And that's just
So I'm gonna tell you how
work from her or whoever organises her socials.
I'll tell you how far down the rabbit hole we went with this, right? So we were discussing it outside. Now I got there early because I misjudged traffic, and I saw this guy sitting in the car park with a white van, right? And I was like, white van, transport stuff. And I looked at him, I was like, this dude looks familiar. So I go onto Instagram, have a look. I'm like, this looks like the guy that does Beyond Gorilla. Why would he be here? So that was the first part of Sherlock Holmes went into it, right? Then little things noticing that this time they took the van and they put the van in the lot next to the venue. And I can't ever remember them doing that before. And I was
did that last time.
Okay.
But even then, that's a new thing, isn't it? Because normally the van is directly outside the venue.
I was just like, is that so the camera can get a good shot of coming down the road? Like all these sorts of things. We were also noticing, so Wayne, who I feel is one of the more level-headed wrestling fans I know, right? Yeah. He was fully in on it. Like, he was wearing his Mercedes Monet shirt and everything because he was convinced. We were then convinced, we were like, it's a 7-match card. Usually on a 7-match card, there is a promo or a segment of some sort.
Working yourself so hard here.
When we come into the venue, I was the second person to walk into the venue. Andy Quilden, looking a little flustered, was on his way out of the venue. And I was like, hang on a minute. I've never seen Andy Quilden leaving the venue as the show started.
At what point did you really finally kind of be like, yes, definitely not happening?
Well, I'll tell you, because that leads into what you just said there about the promo, because we would watch, because when we were on the stage, we could see stuff going, and we kept seeing groups of contenders / RevPro staff walking outside as if they're looking for someone. And we're going, me and Wayne are clocking each other, and we're going, you see what's going on out there? And then so I get on my phone, look up the RevPro ticket page for Southampton. Yep, it says 7:30 finish. There is no way this last match is going an hour. Okay, I thought maybe
7, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, maybe they lengthen it out a bit. They do the post-match promo. Everyone's happy. Off you go. And then the match finished at 7:00, and we were like, there's still half an hour left. And
RevPro doesn't often finish early.
No, it doesn't.
Sometimes
and we were
like, a little late, but they don't
finish
early.
Half an hour early felt significant. and we were watching, we could see people going out, and then at one point you just saw them open the doors, and we're like, hang on a minute, is this it happening?
Like right until the very end,
and we were like, going, they're like, if Oku doesn't do a promo, if his music kicks in, and his music came on, we were like, it's happening, isn't it? And then Francesca said, well, hope you all had a great night. And I thought, there is no way that's like, they're not going to do that.
Of professional wrestling, the idea that WrestleMania headliner Mercedes Moné,
but you know what, right?
Up on a Sunday unannounced to the Southampton 1865.
If she could do that to a little random show in Vienna, right? And I think that's the beauty of what we said, that a year ago, the idea of Mercedes Moné even being in a RevPro ring was like,
oh god, mate, when she right at the start of the year when she did the challenge to Mina Shirakawa.
Yeah. And
I was just like, what?
So let's be honest, right? 7.5 months ago, even now, if you'd said that, we'd have been like, no. The fact that we were sitting in there yesterday going, this could legitimately be a thing, just shows why RevPro is so different from anything else out there, right? And the position it has in the wrestling world. And why?
I still remember, I've said this story before, but I still remember bumping into Andy in Coventry last year and him saying to me, like, I'm going to send you a video later. Get it up on the Instagram channel for me. And I was like, yeah, of course, mate. He's like, just make sure that you collab with all the necessary people. And you're like, yeah, sure. He's like, and obviously AEW. And he just gave me a smile and off he went. And I'm like, what? What's this? What's happening today in Coventry that is going to involve AEW? And then the MJF thing happened. And you're like,
yeah,
fuck. That's nuts.
Yeah, like it's, but like this time last year, we didn't even know about that, right?
No, that hadn't happened yet.
That hadn't happened yet.
July 28th, that was.
Yeah, so you think a year ago, we've never been at a stage where we could dream about that. Like the biggest thing we'd had really as a surprise at that point was Orange Cassidy at High Stakes,
which was a massive surprise as well, right?
Exactly, right. And the fact that is not the biggest surprise that we have had as RevPro fans this last year, not even the second biggest surprise, like that just showed, like, so while deep down, I think we didn't work ourselves into a shoot enough where we were coming away going, oh, I'm disappointed because she didn't turn up, because we were convinced. I think we connected the dots enough. There was enough there for some of it was like, I worked out that guy, to be fair, halfway through the night, I realised that guy wasn't Beyond Gorilla. He just happened to be a dude with long hair and a beard that looked very similar. And I clocked onto this when I saw him working behind the bar. And I was like, fuck, there goes most.
I know the fella that you mean.
But this is the beauty of wrestling, right? Like, you can read into all of this.
He did look quite a lot like him.
Yeah, but yeah, when did we clock on? When did we lose hope? Right at the end. So we had it throughout, but it didn't take away from the show. Look, there's not loads I'll add on to the match other than saying very fun tag match. Everyone played their parts perfectly. Michael, we know where he sits on the card, right? We know why he's the top guy. Mr. Consistent at the level he's at. TK Cooper, really, again, getting the chance to shine. Leaning into this heelish side. I like the way he got the win. Everything just felt good. He feels like he has been elevated.
That was a pretty clean win as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was very, very clean.
No obvious kind of feet on the ropes or anything like that.
No, clean win.
But even up until that, it's not like like there'd been like a huge series of double teams on Oku that had just beaten him to a pulp, and then TK got the win. Like TK caused damage, and that ripcord headbutt was the final nail on the coffin. Yeah,
it felt like you got two guys who their total experience was too much for the other team. As great as Michael Oku is, as great as Nino Bryan is and is going to be, these two guys were just as a team on another level and got that win. I liked how comfortable both men, Nino and Chris, felt in the main event match. Like they didn't feel out of place whatsoever.
And once again we got a taste of what Ridgeway and Oku can do in the ring together.
Yes.
Two of my favourite matches of last year, the two matches that they had.
Yeah.
And I'm not even close to being done. I want to see them wrestle again at least. Like, I want to see them this year at some point.
Yeah.
I could watch that every 6 months and never get bored.
I said on Twitter yesterday after the show, Chris Ridgeway is the most underappreciated man in British wrestling because not enough people know about him, or I think people just look at him and they go, technical, huh? Like, you know what gets me is people that say that he doesn't have presence, because I hear that. People say he doesn't have presence or aura. Like, you don't have to be a guy that yaps a lot to have presence. Sometimes the moves and everything about it, the aura can be enough.
He posted something at the weekend where it was quite like a personal post, and he said about put me in the ring for half an hour and I'm in my element and I have shown no fear, nothing. Put a camera in my face for 30 seconds and it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
And I replied to it just because I was like, just from a fan's perspective, on the RevPro like post-match comments videos that go out, your 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute videos are my favourite ones every week.
Yeah.
I think he's a brilliant talker.
Yeah. I've always said
everything that he says it doesn't sound like he's putting on any form of character. It doesn't feel like he's leaning into anything other than just who he is.
There's no big bombastic sentiment behind it, right? Like a lot of the best,
just a pretty horrible bastard.
A lot of the best promos in wrestling history, right? The Rock, The Miz, Jericho, right? They're all big characters playing up a slightly funny, tongue-in-cheek sort of thing.
Yep.
One of my favourite promos in wrestling of all time is Samoa Joe. Because the guy doesn't cut a promo, he just talks and he captures you. And that's what I like about this sort of style, is that you don't have to have that
Moxley promos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even going back.
It's like go back and watch like Dynamite from 2019 and early 2020, and every time you got a Moxley 30-second promo that was just next level, and he never felt like he was doing anything other than just John Moxley talking.
And I get for some people they need to have that character, and that character comes out more. And when I say need to have the character, they need to rely on the being the over the top. Like, I mean this, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but what I think of with that is David Francisco, right? He is playing an over the top, ridiculous kind of character, not in a unserious way, but he can tread that line. And when he will need to rein it in as serious, he will be able to do that because the man is talented enough to do that. But right now, it is a bit hokey, tongue-in-cheek, like that sort of thing. Completely the opposite vibe to Ridgeway. And when he can go out there and speak the way he does, I thought it was great. I could tell yesterday there was some people up on the stage who became fans of Chris Ridgeway off the back of that.
I'm really feeling it this year. Just talking to fans before shows and stuff, like there's definitely a greater appreciation for Ridgeway as the years go on. And maybe because I'm such a big champion of his, I'm often recommending his matches. I'm often talking him up in takeaways and stuff. And I know lots of people that come and talk to me are people that read those things. So maybe because I'm putting him over so much, it gives them something to talk to me about. You know, like it gives us a bit of mutual ground to we can just mark out about Chris Ridgeway together. It's lovely. But I also feel like lots of people who are just, they'll hear us talking about Chris Ridgeway and they'll just join in and be like, oh yeah, I'd never seen him before this year. I've seen a few of his matches that are really good in it, and it's just it's very positive. I never hear anybody say a negative word about him. Genuinely one of my favourite wrestlers in the world, any promotion to watch. And when I know he's on the card, I know I'm going to enjoy the card more than when I know he's not there.
Yeah, agreed. I thought it was really well done. I thought the promo videos that both men also did and how they utilized social media in the lead up to this. I don't know. Did you catch Oku's one with the TV? Yeah, great. Yeah, I thought the way they did that and they utilized social media to build up to this as well.
And
I thought it was perfect.
I love that Oku did the really well produced, like put a lot of time and effort into it. Really tongue in cheek kind of little jokes in there. Michael Oku kind of at his kind of arrogant best, I'd say.
It was Oku being a dick, right? Yeah. Dismissive, TK patronizing dick.
Taking a stroll on the beach.
Yeah.
Taking a stroll on the beach. Selfie. Boom.
Yeah. And this is, we talk about, right, as well, about how you don't have heroes and faces, but the guy who's presented as this all-conquering hero is the guy doing a well-produced video, literally going, hey, look, I was the guy that came in, you beat me, look where I am now, look where you are. I'm like really having a go at the guy. The guy who is the heel is the guy that went, I've been grafting from day one. I've been winning championships and no one has given me a second thought. Like, I am literally at this level. Yeah.
TK Cooper debuted for RevPro.
Yeah.
2017.
It's the way that they've gone about it was really, really good. And I just love that you can look at it and go, these are who are presented as the heroes and faces. But actually, this is what that action dictate and not feel like it's a complete misrepresentation. Go, oh, they're casting correctly in this role. No, it works.
I'm very much looking forward to sitting at the Revolution Rumble with my daughter. I will be wearing a TK Cooper shirt. She will be wearing a Michael Oku shirt. And for that day, we will not agree. I want TK to win.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
I would not be disappointed if TK Cooper won that match. Look, I've been crowing on about this for so long. I said it on here last week, but I've been wanting. This is why I wanted a Sunshine Machine split. I knew this is what TK had in him. I knew it. And getting everything I believed that we could get from a TK Cooper, being more of a singles guy, we're getting it now. And I couldn't be happier because it just adds something else to the show as well. Like, we've got all of these great characters. My gut is still telling me that we get TK Cooper versus Chuck Mambo at the anniversary show. That's where I think we're going with this. I think that'd be a fun story.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. To finish this up, who's winning the J Cup? Who are the three people going to make up the J Cup? Does the J Cup winner beat Will Caven at Revolution Rumble? And then we can do a bit of a J Cup review and Rumble preview next week.
I think so. Okay, so who do I think the other three people will be? I think the other three people will be Ethan Allen, Joe Lando, and another import of some kind, like Akuro or someone like that. Who do I think is going to win? At this stage of the names announced, I'm gonna go with Cameron Kai, but I don't feel it's as nailed on. No, I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna go with Ace Austin to win the J Cup. I'm gonna go with Ace Austin to lose at the Revolution Rumble because Cameron Kai beats Caven at the anniversary show.
I could absolutely get on board with all of that, my friend.
That's where I'm going.
Very happy. Joe Lando, who I now feel is going to be in the J Cup, changes who I predicted before. Because if Joe's going to be there, I think Ethan Allen's going to be there, which leaves one spot. And I'm going to pull out a name that I've not pulled out. If Leon Cage can't enter it, maybe Shane Hooker enters it as a, you know, and then they can lean into that. Leon couldn't be here, so his tag partner is going to take his spot. I'm going to go with Cameron to win it, and I'm going to go with Cameron to beat Caithan at the Rumble. But I certainly wouldn't complain at Ace Austin, and the idea and getting to see Ace Austin again would make me very happy. Really like the lad.
Yeah, same. Well, mate, that feels like a good roundup of what was. We've got Saturday to come. It's like we said, between now and Saturday, we'll see what drops. We'll see who else is going to be in the tournament, but it's going to be an exciting event, I think.
It is, mate. Say less.